What are we discussing on today's Locked On Diamondbacks podcast? Recapping that offensive stinker that the D-backs put up against Patrick Corbin. And is Corbin Carroll officially back?
You are Locked On Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You're listening to who? The charismatic host of this podcast, Millard Thomas. I'm a multimedia journalist and I'm a graphic designer, so please go check out my work, Millard Thomas 24.myportfolio.com. On there you can see all my latest work, from my packages to my articles to my photos and my graphic design. Today's episode is brought to you by Tax Network USA. Did you know that it's never too late to resolve your tax issues with the IRS? Don't wait, reduce your tax debt, and get help from a team of licensed tax professionals. Call 1-800-549-1000 or visit tnusa.com/lockedon. On today's Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, we'll talk about that D-backs offensive stinker in Game 2 against the Nationals. Is it officially time to say Corbin Carroll is back? And will the D-backs blow this series? We'll talk about that in segment number 3. Thank you for making Locked On Diamondbacks your first listen every day. I would not be able to do this podcast without you, my loyal listeners, sharing, subscribing, reviewing, doing all that so I could do this podcast for you. Thank you. It's free. It's available on all platforms, so please continue to tell your friends. And one of those platforms is YouTube, so please hit subscribe to Locked On Diamondbacks on YouTube. Our goal is to hit 2,000 subs by the All-Star break. So once again, please hit subscribe to Locked On Diamondbacks on YouTube. But now let's talk about Game 2's performance against the Washington Nationals, because this was such a frustrating game to watch. D-backs, we thought they were going to go. I'll say this. I thought they were going to go into Game 2 and honestly put up a big number against the Nats. I thought Game 2 was as close to a guaranteed victory as you can get. I would have told you put your house on the D-backs money line in Game 2. Because one, you had Pfaadt pitching against a mediocre offense in the Washington Nationals. Pfaadt coming off a really good start, chance to build some momentum. I thought he was going to have a fantastic start against the Nationals, and that he did. And then, of course, with him having a fantastic start, I thought the offense was going to show up against one of the worst pitchers in Major League Baseball since 2020. We talked about it on yesterday's podcast, how Patrick Corbin, since signing with the Nationals, has arguably been the worst pitcher in Major League Baseball. In that first season with the Nationals, he had like a 3.25 ERA over 200 innings pitched. And even with that season, he still has over a 5 ERA with the Nats. He's been awful during his time with the Washington outside of his first season. And I thought the D-backs were going to go into game number 2 and put up a big crooked number against former friend Patrick Corbin. But instead, they were not able to do that. Corbin looked fantastic against the D-backs. And again, when you look at the offense, what do I always look at first? I love to look at strikeouts compared to walks by the team. 10 strikeouts by the D-backs to only 3 walks, 4 hits. Not a good offensive performance. 0 for 5 with runners in scoring position. And with Brandon Pfaadt pitching the way he was, so frustrating to see not see the D-backs to get this win. And on top of it, entering the game, the D-backs were the owners of the second wild card spot. They actually had a chance to build a little lead in the wild card race. Own the series against the Nationals. You already own it against the Giants. You have battled against the Padres this year. Like, you're setting up yourself well in the wild card race in terms of teams you own the tiebreaker over. You could have built a little lead for the second wild card spot. Instead, the D-backs offense decided to not show up in game number 2. And it was very frustrating to see. At one point, the D-backs had the bases loaded with nobody out. And I will say this, the umpire at times seemed to be working for the Washington Nationals because he was calling balls way out of the zone strikes. And it makes you question when you see some of that stuff, especially with all the recent athletes and a couple umps getting busted recently with sports betting. Makes you wonder, when an umpire consistently calls balls out the strike zone strikes, is it because he has terrible eyesight, he's bad at his job, or does he have a little something on the line? I don't know. Just way too many calls, nowhere near the strike zone being called for strikes, especially when it was during a little stretch where Corbin was throwing no strikes. And the fact that the ump was calling any of those ball strikes was crazy to see. But the D-backs had bases loaded, nobody out in the fourth inning. Eugenio Suarez up at the plate, who, of course, has not done anything offensively this season. He has been recently contributing to the offense a little bit by just not swinging the bat. He's become a way more patient hitter over the last week and just taking a ton of pitches. It's actually worked out a ton for Eugenio Suarez because when he's not swinging the bat, he's actually drawing a lot of walks and getting on base. All of a sudden, he is drawing a ton of walks over the past week. The issue is he still doesn't put the ball in play and he still doesn't come through when you need him most with runners on or a big hit. Like, he still doesn't deliver the big knock that the D-backs need. And it felt like he was going to do that in today's game because Eugenio Suarez had the best career numbers against Patrick Corbin of anyone on this D-backs team. He was like 8 for 21 in his career against Corbin. I thought it was going to be the moment where the D-backs put some runs on the board. Suarez has been struggling all year, but at least a chance to make a name for himself with the D-backs fans and have a feel-good moment in the organization. And Suarez, line drive off the glove of the shortstop, feels like potentially we could still score a run, but it was hit so hard that Lourdes Gurriel at third base had to freeze. And by the time he tries to score, the shortstop of the Nationals throws him out. D-backs don't score there. They only score one run with the bases loaded, nobody out, via Patrick Corbin walking somebody home. They were not able to convert that opportunity. Corbin Carroll, he has a fantastic play later in the game where on a grounder through the hole, he scores a double. And then he reaches third base because of the bobble by the right fielder. So on a grounder through the hole, Carroll ends up on third base with one out. And then what does Lourdes Gurriel do with the very next bat? He strikes out. Christian Walker unable to come through as well. He's been struggling a little bit. He has some home runs over the past week, but in terms of delivering big hits or runners in scoring position, feels like he hasn't been doing that as much recently. And the D-backs offense overall, with a great Brandon Pfaadt start, they were not able to bail him out. Pfaadt was super efficient in this game, 77 pitches over 6.1 innings pitched, and that's with 4 walks allowed. That tells you how efficient he was today. Great job of attacking hitters early. I saw a stat today. He's third since like 2000 in first pitch strike rate. He was doing that again today. Didn't rack up any strikeouts, but 10 ground ball outs, super efficient, working through the game. I thought it was a fantastic Brandon Pfaadt start. Thought there was going to be a chance for him to potentially finish 7 really clean innings. He gives up 3 earned runs, but that third run was courtesy of Kevin Ginkel not being able to do his job and not helping out his teammate Brandon Pfaadt get out of the jam. All in all, just a bad game by the D-backs. Offensively, not being able to contribute anything to help out Brandon Pfaadt's case. Then the bullpen, Kevin Ginkel not being able to have Brandon Pfaadt's back either. Very disappointing from both of those groups. And now the D-backs have one more game in the series to take it to the Washington Nationals and really claim a lead in the wild card race. And we'll discuss if they can win the series in segment number 3. But if you still need help paying back taxes, then Tax Network USA is here to help, because here on Locked On Diamondbacks, we pride ourselves on getting you the latest news for your team, whether it's the offseason, the draft, spring training, or the playoffs. It's year-round. You know what else is year-round? Collection season. Just because tax season is over doesn't mean the IRS will stop coming after you for unfiled taxes. The IRS can garnish your wages, levy your bank accounts, and even seize your property. Don't let the IRS target you. Let the licensed professionals and tax experts at Tax Network USA go to bat for you. With over 14 years of an experience and an A+ rating by the Better Business Bureau, Tax Network USA has saved their clients over $1 billion in tax debt. Whether you owe taxes, have complicated matters that require tax planning, or you finally hit that parlay this season and need help correctly filing, call 1-800-549-1000 or visit taxnetworkusa.com/lockedon. See the link in the episode description below. A lot of life is unpredictable, but a good life insurance plan gives your family a financial safety net to protect against some of the unknown. Policy Genius is the country's leading online insurance marketplace. It makes choosing the right policy for your family easy and quick. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some options are 100% online and let you avoid unnecessary medical exams. Policy Genius helps you easily compare your options from America's top insurers in just a few clicks. Their award-winning agents can even walk you through the process step by step. Your work life insurance policy may not offer enough protection for your family's needs. Even worse, it may not come with you if you leave your job. Policy Genius has no incentive to recommend one insurer over another, so you can trust their guidance. Get peace of mind by finding the right life insurance with Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com. All right. Let's get back into the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast and let's discuss Corbin Carroll and his bat, because we've asked this question before when he's gone going and had little streaks, but I think it's time to ask the question again. Is Corbin Carroll officially back? Because the D-backs offense, as we talked about, it has really taken off in the month of June. Obviously, we didn't see that in game number 2, but we did get to see more really good Corbin Carroll at the plate. And I think the epitome of Corbin Carroll finally starting to show signs of life, finally looking like himself, is that play that I talked about in segment number 1, where he has that grounder through the right side of the infield, and immediately Corbin Carroll runs with a purpose, like he's going to second base. Despite the ball being on the ground, Corbin Carroll breaks out the box at full speed and never breaks his stride. He knows as soon as he puts the ball in play, he wants to in that situation. And once he realizes the right fielder bobbling the ball and making a mistake, he says, let's turn up the jets a little bit more and let's make it all the way to third. His speed and the chaos on the bases, that confidence that he showed doing that play, tells me Corbin Carroll mentally is starting to get back to the level that we saw last year. Because how many plate appearances and at-bats have we seen with Corbin Carroll this year where it ends with a pop-up, ends in a soft grounder, and he goes to first, and he throws his helmet in the ground, or he strikes out and he walks back to the dugout shaking his head? The confidence, the mental psyche from Corbin Carroll this year seems to have been so low at times. His self-esteem in himself seems to have been so low at times. There have been press conferences where he's talked about it. This season has been incredibly difficult. Just showing up to the ballpark every day has been incredibly difficult because of the mental grind Corbin Carroll has been through as his bats and his offense has struggled this year. But now that he is starting to swing the bat better, now when he puts the ball in play, it actually finds the holes and the gaps in the defense. You can see the confidence growing with Corbin Carroll. And with the offense of Corbin Carroll finally starting to wake up, it has manifested throughout the entire lineup. Since May 29th, Corbin Carroll has been absolutely on fire for the Arizona Diamondbacks. When you look at the numbers, they are actually pretty eye-popping since May 29th. Corbin Carroll, since that date, 314 average, a 422 OBP, a 443 slugging. So that's about an 860 OPS, a WRC plus of 150. He's got a couple of triples during that time. He's got 4 stolen bases. Like, Corbin Carroll, since May 29th, looks like the Corbin Carroll that we saw from last year. He's running all around the bases, using that speed to, like we saw today, turn just simple hard ground balls into doubles, into landing on third base. He's shooting the ball in the gap way more down the line. Like the ball is finally finding the gaps and the holes in the defense, which it just wasn't doing for most of the season. And you can easily see how it's manifesting, matriculating in the rest of the lineup because so many guys have started playing better since Corbin Carroll have woken up, right? Since May 29th as well. And also, these stats I'm saying don't account for game 2 against the Nationals. Just mind that. Lourdes Gurriel since May 29th. He's batting .290. And he was another guy that has been struggling for most of the season, right? But you can see as soon as Corbin Carroll starts to wake up, guys like Lourdes Gurriel finally start to play better as well. Corbin Carroll, when he gets going, it's not a surprise that the rest of this offense has gotten going as well. Since May 29th, when you look at the D-backs team offensive ranks, they are third in runs scored in the National League since May 29th. Or excuse me, not third. They were second in runs scored in the National League since May 29th. They are third, though, in WRC plus during that time. They are third in offensive WAR during that time as well. They are third in slugging percentage during that time. They are second in average, second in OBP. You look at their walk rate, fourth in that. So the D-backs with Corbin Carroll starting to take off, it has matriculated throughout the rest of this team. And that's something that we've preached on this podcast for so long because we've talked about it. Corbin Carroll is the most dynamic player that the D-backs have. When we talk about his speed, his athleticism, when we talk about the power that he does possess, his ability to shoot it to all of the fields. Corbin Carroll, when he's at his absolute best, he's the most dynamic player that the D-backs have. He can create chaos. He can set up others. He can drive home others. Like Corbin Carroll can do it all on a baseball field. And the fact that he was one of the worst players in Major League Baseball offensively, and that's not hyperbolic. Like at some points this season, according to WRC plus, Corbin Carroll is like a bottom 5 player in Major League Baseball. We said this D-backs offense is never going to reach the ceiling and the expectations that we have for it if Corbin Carroll is going to continue to look like one of the worst players in the sport. And it's funny to say because we've been preaching that message all year, that narrative all year. As soon as Corbin Carroll starts to play better, you can literally look at the numbers. May 29th, Corbin Carroll starts turning his season around. And as soon as that happens, this D-backs offense goes to another level. And now they have been arguably the best in the National League in the month of June and top 3 in the National League since Corbin Carroll started to turn his season around. Is it officially time to say Corbin Carroll is back? I'm not there just yet because I still think there is one more area in Corbin Carroll's game that we have not seen enough this year to officially say he's back. And once he starts doing this, I think we could say it. And it has to do with his over-the-fence power, the home run power. We have not seen enough of that Corbin Carroll yet this year. He has a .500 slugging through his first 180 games. This is a dude with a tremendous amount of power. 25 home runs last year, led the league in triples, 30 doubles. Like this is a extra base hit machine. And currently he's third of the way to his double total last year. He has 6 triples, which lead the league this year. But the home runs is the one area where he has not shown up enough. His slugging since May 29th, it's good, but it's not elite. It's not as good as we know it can be for Corbin Carroll. We know it can be even better. We know he does have way more power than what he's displayed so far for the D-backs. Again, 443 slugging since May 29th is very good, but entering the season, his career slugging was over 500. So we know there's more in the power department for Corbin Carroll. And once he brings that part of his game back, then I think we can officially say Corbin Carroll is back. Now we'll talk about if the D-backs are going to blow this series or if they're going to step up in a big way in segment number 3. You know that confidence boost you get from an outfit that makes you look really good? That's what I get with Stitch Fix. With Stitch Fix, you get a stylist who understands your style, size, and budget. They do all the shopping for you. It's the easiest way to update your wardrobe this season. Easily upgrade your wardrobe this year with a professional stylist that helps you find new on-trend favorites that will work for you. My stylist always sends just right pieces and the fit is on point. It's like they have style ESP. I don't know how they do it, but they just get me. Stitch Fix makes it all so easy. I don't like to shop, and they save me that time and effort. Plus, I get outfits that make me look and feel really good. And if you don't love something, just send it back. Shipping, returns, and exchanges are always free. Style that makes you feel as you look. And of course, you're going to be looking and feeling good with Stitch Fix. Now is the best time to get started at stitchfix.com/MLB and get $100 off. That's $25 off your first 4 fixes for a limited time only. That's stitchfix.com/MLB for $100 off. Stitchfix.com/MLB. Must redeem within 7 days of sign up. Offer does not include kids fixes. All right, let's get back to the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast and now discuss if the D-backs are going to blow this series or step up in the finale and take it to the Washington Nationals. Because as we've talked about in the podcast the last couple of weeks, the month of June schedule broke perfectly for the D-backs. They had a whole bunch of teams to go against who are in the wild card race or teams who are just plain bad in Major League Baseball. You start off against the New York Mets, you split the series, but in the month of June, the 2 games you won against the Mets counted in the month of June, so that makes you look really good. You beat the Giants, you split against the Padres, you beat the Angels, you beat the White Sox. Those are how your series went to start the month of June. All good stuff. You have not lost a series yet in the month of June. Now you're going against another mediocre team, the Washington Nationals. You have to handle your business in tomorrow's game. Next, you face off against the Philadelphia Phillies. I'm counting that series as a loss. That's okay. But against the Twins and A's right after that, you have to win both of those series, and that will set you up perfectly in the wild card race. But it all starts against the Washington Nationals. The D-backs, if they won game 2, they would have increased their lead in the wild card race for the second wild card spot. Now they have to get back in the wild card race by just winning the finale against the Nationals. And of course, the Nationals are a team right there in the mix as well. So if you want to own the tiebreaker over the Nats, you have to show up in a big way in this series finale. I'm tired of the D-backs not taking advantage of the situations that are given to them and not grabbing a hold of one of those wild card spots because that race is wide open. It's so vulnerable. Anyone could take it, and the D-backs are just not stepping up enough to take advantage of the cards that they've been dealt. Because to be honest, despite the injuries and the poor performance, it's still set up for the D-backs to take a wild card spot and make another run potentially in the postseason. But you have to handle your business against the bad teams. They did against the White Sox. They did against the Los Angeles Angels. Can they do it one more time against the Washington Nationals? And recently, series finales have been very nice to the Arizona Diamondbacks because that is when they've put up some of their best offensive performances. If you look at the last 3 D-back series finales against the Chicago White Sox, they put up 12 runs. Against the Angels in the finale, they put up 11. And then against the Padres in their finale, they put up 9 runs. Last 3 finales, all wins. So they're averaging over 10 runs a game over the last 3 finales. And we need to see the D-backs have a performance like that once again in this series finale. And it won't be easy because for the Washington Nationals, they're going to have one of their better pitchers on the mound in a Mackenzie Gore. He was, of course, acquired in the Juan Soto trade. And I just believe in Mackenzie Gore a lot. He's one of those pieces for the Nationals where I think in a year or 2, he can look like a stud pitcher leading that team potentially to the postseason. I think this national team is 2 years away from being a pretty good playoff contender. I think Mackenzie Gore is going to be a frontline starter for that potential team I'm talking about that's 2 years away. He's a guy that averages 96.5 miles per hour on his fastball, which is up 1.5 miles from last season. This is a guy that throws super hard, a really high-ranking prospect. and it's someone that I do think is a very good emerging pitcher in the sport of Major League Baseball. So I don't think this will be an easy performance for the D-backs offense. It's not like how I feel when they were going into game 2 against Patrick Corbin, where I'm like, if you put up an offensive stinker in game 2, you should not be on the private jet flying back to Arizona when this East Coast trip ends. And that's what happened to the D-backs. They lost game 2 to Patrick Corbin. They should take a bus when they go to Philadelphia. They should each have to get on like the local subway or whatever because of that game 2 offensive stinker to Patrick Corbin. So if they want to make up for it, having a great offensive game against a very tough pitcher and young pitcher Mackenzie Gore would be very impressive. Gore doesn't have a large sample size against the Arizona Diamondbacks, but in the sample size he does have, the D-backs do have success against Mackenzie Gore. Now, it's only 20 at-bats total for the entire D-backs roster, but they are 8 for 20 as a team against Mackenzie Gore, so they do have a little bit of success. Lourdes Gurriel, 3 for 3 in his career against Mackenzie Gore, so maybe he's the guy to watch out for in the series finale. And then for the D-backs, you got Ryan Nelson on the mound, who is always boom or bust, right? In terms of the trust that we have for Ryan Nelson. One day he looks really good, fantastic, like he did in his most recent start against the Chicago White Sox, where he went 6 innings, 1 earned run. But in the start before that, 5 earned runs over 3.1 innings pitched to the Padres. Start before that against the Giants, 7.2 innings pitched, 2 earned runs. Then the start before that, 4 earned runs, 6 innings pitched. So literally the definition of trick or treat. Every other start, he looks really good. And considering he's coming off a good start against the Chicago White Sox, maybe this is a bad start for Ryan Nelson. I don't know if he can have back-to-back good starts, but if he can do it, it would mean a lot to the D-backs. It would go a long way. D-backs could desperately use a series win against a mediocre team and own that tiebreaker over the Washington Nationals. They really need a win on Thursday. And if Ryan Nelson could do that, just increases his odds of staying on the D-backs active roster once the pitching rotation gets healthy. If Ryan Nelson wants to potentially go in the bullpen one day, we're going to need to see him continue to pitch well, and going against a mediocre Nationals team, it's another good opportunity for Nelson to take advantage of that situation and have himself a fine start. So we'll see what kind of start Ryan Nelson delivers for the D-backs, and we'll see if the D-backs can continue their trend of big offensive explosions in their series finales. That's it for this edition of the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. Come back tomorrow for more Diamondbacks news, coverage, and insight. And as always, stay safe, stay healthy. Doses.